the one resolution I think is still pending, and if anybody disagrees, let me know, is around the Occupy, the 99% declaration that was distributed with about 300 copies last week. And the decision was made that rather than try and vote on that last week, that we would give people a week to review it and discuss amongst themselves, and then go through the document and see which points the Occupy Jacksonville group agreed with. And it was that we weren't letting anybody take our voice. It was merely trying to establish a starting point which we could then continue to modify and move ahead. That was what was voted on last week, and that is still on the table. What we came up with that we thought was fair, if I can try and summarize, there are some people who are concerned of where that document came from and would basically want to consider other documents. And speaking strictly from a media team perspective, I want points that I can take to the media, and I have no agenda. And it could take us more weeks to do that. So what we agreed is that we basically have one fundamental decision to make, is do we want to use the document, the declaration of the 99% that was voted on last week, or do we want to throw that document out and get some other document that we want to use as a starting point? And we're going to get 2 people talking for each position. 2 people to keep the document that was distributed last week and voted on, and 2 people that are against it and want to look at other alternatives. And I would recommend, say, a 4-minute time limit.
Total for each side.
So 2 minutes each?
Yeah, two minutes per person.
Right, because there's 2 people for each
There's
side.
4 minutes for each side of the argument.
So we'll stick with the 2-minute format that we use at People's Soapbox then, if that's good. Sound good to everybody?
Sounds good.
I don't think anybody's prepared remarks that are going to...
Let's do one point of view, then the other, then one point of view, and the other. That way it keeps it balanced and fair, if that sounds good. Okay, so since the resolution already passed last week, let's start with the people that are for keeping the document, and Bill's going to speak first for 2 minutes.
Can everyone hear me?
Can everyone hear me?
I hear you.
Yeah. Well, the ones that are close enough to mic check,
Mic check. Mic check.
pass the word along to the back.
Mic check. Along to the back.
I'm here to speak for
I'm
here to speak for
not throwing this document out
not throwing this document out
with the bathwater.
with the bathwater.
I certainly understand
I
Certainly understand
people's concerns
people's concerns
about where it came from,
about where it came from,
but I don't have a lot of concern
but I don't have a lot of concern
about the contents.
about the contents.
So,
So,
I'm going to speak in favor
I'm going to speak in favor
of continuing this discussion outside of the general meeting,
discussion outside the general meeting,
using this document
using this document
as a framework
as a framework
for Occupy Jacksonville
for Occupy Jacksonville
letter of declaration.
declaration.
The reason that I say this
The reason I say this
is that because
is because
I've reviewed,
I've
actually read the document,
actually read the document,
and I can't find too much in here
and I can't find too much in
that
here
any of us in good principle
that any of us in good principle
could really object to.
could really object to.
I think that it defines
I think that it defines
a framework
a framework
that will allow us
that will allow us
to state who we are,
to say who we are,
what we stand for,
what we stand for,
and leave that open-ended enough
and leave that open-ended enough
to join in
to join in
with any national occupation
with any
national occupation
fruition
fruition
that takes place as a result of these smaller demonstrations.
that takes place as a result of these smaller demonstrations.
Based on that,
Based on that,
I would vote for the affirmative
I would vote for the affirmative
to carry this document forward
to carry this document forward
as our guideline
as our guideline
and for the planning committee,
and for the planning committee,
I suppose,
I suppose,
to come up with a meeting
come up with a meeting
so that those who are interested in these kind of matters,
those who are interested in these kind of matters,
whether in support of
or
throwing it out with the bathwater,
throwing it out with the bathwater,
can all sit down and come up with a like document that demonstrates who we are. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay.
And speaking against first is Sophia.
Can I use this thing? Yes.
If you like.
We'll still repeat you guys. All right, sit.
Turn on the mic. There you go.
All right, since last week, when the document was handed out, some of us had it.
We're going to mic it. We're going to keep mic it.
You're still going to do it? Okay. Since the document was handed out, some of us had a chance to research it. Both the content and its origins. What I'm going to say doesn't reflect on anyone in Occupy Jacksonville who brought it to the table. I've spoken with a member of the steering group. It is whose name is on the original declaration. This was not created by that steering group. It was created by one person. Somebody who makes more money than most of us. It was drafted not out of consensus, but an effort for that one person to grab power. There is an aura of toxicity to the entire thing. More importantly, I think we stand at a precipice. Well, we have to decide what Occupy really is. I see this as a renaissance of civic engagement with free exchange of ideas. The beginning of a much-needed conversation among individuals of different ideologies. The more we lock ourselves into a formal organization with specific political platform, the more we sacrifice our strength, our fluidity, our mass appeal, our openness to different ideas, our ability to make fools of the media, when we refuse to play their games, and fit their preconceived ideas about what we should be.
You're at your two.
I am not saying that we should have no limits. It's not like we're going to tolerate white supremacists or other hateful people. But I'm glad to see a Ron Paul shirt here. Even though I strongly disagree with what Ron Paul represents. I say we reject this false choice between having no principles and boxing ourselves in a way that alienates most of the 99%. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking next for keeping the document is V. Again, I said I have no agenda.
Agendas that have no agenda.
This is where the people make their voice heard.
This is where the people make their voice heard.
I think it's critical that we can show
I think it's critical that we can show
that we can be more effective than Congress
that we can be more effective in Congress
and agree on something.
and agree on something.
We don't have to agree on all of it,
We don't have to agree on all of it.
but let's figure out what we do agree on.
Let's figure out what we do agree on.
Not from where it came from,
Not from where it came
not
from,
from where it started,
not from where it started,
but on behalf of Occupy Jacksonville.
but on behalf of Occupy Jacksonville.
Because it's our voice
Because it's our voice
that we need to make heard.
that we need to make heard.
And the sooner we do it
And the sooner we do it
and agree on something,
and agree on something,
the less we can be portrayed
the less we can be portrayed
as distracted,
as distracted,
unfocused,
unfocused,
and unprincipled.
and unprincipled.
That's why I think we should move forward
That's why I think we should move forward
and vote on the points that were passed out in last week's document
the points that were passed out in last week's document
as a starting point
as a starting point
for Occupy Jacksonville's voice.
for Occupy Jacksonville's voice.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Okay, next up on
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's me, isn't it? Up next. Speaking against. James.
You guys may remember me from... Okay, so I am not for this document I helped write. I am also not for the other document. I am for a document. But we need more time to figure out what it is we are trying to say. It's easy to declare something. It's hard to declare the right thing. So I would encourage us to read both documents. Figure out what you like. But let's give it some time to decide on anything. Earlier I urged precaution. For tact. I would still encourage that. Thank you.
Okay. So now it's time to vote. What we agreed is that we would vote whether we are for the old document or starting with a new document that would be reviewed and voted on in a future meeting. If the current document passes, we talked about breaking into small working groups to review the first 10 points and let the people decide which ones they agree on. Or we can wait till another time. Where's Evie? Where's Evie? Got to vote. Can you do that procedure, please?
We'll have a neutral party. If you would like to start,
With the current document that we received last week and vote on those tenets, please raise your hand. Please only vote once. If you would like to start from scratch and create our own document, which will take a little bit longer, please raise your hand. It's overwhelming. It looks like we are going to start from scratch. And I hear from a little birdie that Zach has a proposal of something he would like to contribute later.
Our document should be about local issues.
All right, there we go. Democracy in action.
Yeah.
All right.